Ain't like I'm still 5 years old, you know? Ain't like I'm gonna be sitting up every night asking my mom, when's daddy coming home, you know? Who needs him?
It's all right to be angry.
How come he don't want me, man?
All us kids with no dads are gonna take over the world.
Hence why the name is Milk Run, you know. Our fathers went to get milk, never came back.
We can restore the balance.
Hashtag no dad gang.
We always end up coming back with milk. Unlike your dad, we'll be here next week. The Milk Run Podcast. Alrighty, welcome back to another episode. Another episode of the Milk Run, but it is a special episode today because we are joined with Australian podcast royalty. If I do say so. No, not you.
No. Tell me what?
You're still just, what's the word? A squire.
Premature. Oh.
No,
A
not that
squire?
one. A squire.
What is a squire?
It's like someone who like is a servant to a knight. But anyways, we digress already.
Excuse
5
me?
seconds in.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
We are joined today with Renee Bennett, the host of the Girl Next Door podcast.
Yes.
Hello, Renee.
Boys, this is a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure's all ours.
Yes. We went next door.
Yeah, well, that's it.
You went next
we came next
door.
door. And now we're here. I have been on your podcast a couple times, Renee.
You haven't, and you've been very well listened to.
Well,
five.
sometimes, well, I came on the first time, I talked about love. And then I think, well, you need to take some tips from that one.
Sorry.
But then
Yeah, true.
the next time I came back, I was talking about demonic stuff.
Oh, wow.
Like
it's like
demonic
complete
influences.
I love it.
And then it just kept digressing because the next time I came on, I was talking about aliens.
That's right. Yes.
And so it's
Yes,
gone
you
from
were.
a kind of a respectable topic that people
yeah.
take me seriously.
Yeah.
Now I'm the alien guy, but I'm okay with that. But it's such an honor to have you, Pastor Renee. For those of you who don't know, Renee is more than just a podcast host. She is a pastor. She is one of the national directors of Youth Alive Australia, which is absolutely amazing, and so many cool things we talked about on an episode before.
Yeah. Renee's been a big part of our lives.
Of our lives as
I
well.
heard that episode. I was here right in this room ironing, going do. It's so nice.
Some tears. So it's honestly amazing to have you, and what an absolute pleasure and honor it is. A lot of people probably don't know that you have a story when it comes to fatherlessness and kind of a story with your family and kind of how that plays out. And it's always funny because you look at your life now, happily married, beautiful children who are so amazing and respectful. I mean,
Guys.
you guys, you guys are what I would imagine in my mind what a godly family looks like. And every episode we talk about, the nuclear family. It's like your family would be the family that I would have in mind. You know what I mean when I think about that.
That is true.
But that wasn't the way that you were brought up. And so that to me is just amazing right out the gate.
Yeah.
That who you are now is so far removed from the journey that you went through in the beginning. So today we would love to, I guess, hear your story and a bit about that. But first of all, for everyone who listens to us who may not listen to the Girl Next Door podcast, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about what you do. What are you doing at the moment in the world? And introduce yourself.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Introduce myself. Okay. So the podcast has been going for about 3 years. That's just my side hustle, by the way. That's kind of like little thing I do on the side, but it does take up a lot of time. So my podcast started as a space for girls in leadership, but it kind of morphed into talking about cultural issues, especially from a biblical kind of worldview, because it is crazy the times that we're living in.
So you're telling me the Bible has something to say about culture?
Look, just a little bit.
That's fantastic.
And look, apparently I'm a little bit controversial, but I would say no. And majority of people that message me are like, you're the only one in Australia talking about it as being a leader, that is. So yeah, anyway, so that's that. But yeah, we run Youth Alive, lead pastor with Cameron of Public Church. We just handed over Queensland Youth Alive to Isaiah and the other Renee.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
You guys are still part of that, which is amazing. Married 25 years.
Yeah, wow.
25.
What's your guys' wedding anniversary?
January 3rd.
Oh, so it's coming up.
Book that
Yeah.
in. We need to get them
Yeah.
chocolates or something.
That's very thoughtful of you.
It's really thoughtful of you.
So, how many years? Sorry,
25.
25.
25. So we got
That's
engaged.
fantastic.
No, we dated in March, engaged in September, married in January.
Oh wow!
Wow.
I
So in
know.
under a year.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
I'd
bam,
only
bam,
known him
bam.
for 2 years. Yeah.
So you just knew he was the one.
100%.
Because when Cam tells the story, he tells it like he knew you were the one.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so he's like
he was
he's
in
not wasting
denial.
any time for a long time.
For a long
Yeah, he was
time.
in denial
But
for a
eventually he
little
got
while.
there.
Yeah, yeah. Which is quite wild considering the background that I kind of, grew up in. So yeah, so being here now in all the things that I'm doing to me is still crazy because, and it's part of the reason I called my podcast The Girl Next Door is because I really am just the ordinary girl that grew up in a average suburb in Adelaide, South Australia, and grew up in a single parent home. My mum got married twice, divorced twice. So it is crazy that my life is looking how it looks now.
Can I just say, Renee? I don't know how you come up with these names. Like, no, literally, there's been a few times, even at our church or youth,
Totally.
that you've called you brought in like a name for the
Yeah, like
this event,
series or the-
even for Youth Alive.
I love that's what actually what I love doing.
I'm like, how the heck do you come up with this stuff?
I studied writing.
Ah,
Not a lot of people know that. Yeah, I actually studied teaching and then writing. And my dad's actually an artist, so there's a lot of creativity in my family. I know, and a lot of people don't know that, but anyway.
and
So that was a
pretty
bad
amazing.
intro. I didn't really intro myself.
No,
I
that
don't
was
know. So what else
fantastic. It's
do I
good to
do?
know
Please.
kind of some of the background. I think, yeah, obviously, again, seeing your life and seeing the fruit of your life is just absolutely amazing. I think it's a story that needs to get out there, especially to the fatherless generation, that it doesn't matter where you've come from or the the situation.
Did you just swear?
I was trying to say situation. This isn't one of those podcasts.
I think it
I was
is.
trying to say situation, but to be fair, it could also be said the other way that I did say it. It doesn't matter what crap
Let's
you
not
come
true.
put a
from.
light onto that, but
You can.
Yeah.
You are in control of your own destiny.
yeah, that's good.
You are. That is
One
so
of our
true.
previous episodes that we've just done was about breaking the, I guess,
Generation cycles.
the
Right?
generational
Yeah.
cycles, and how you have a decision right now
Yeah.
to make a difference, and it doesn't have to perpetuate. So,
Wow.
without any further ado, I would love to hear your story. Can you just walk us through kind of your whole journey? What was it like? How did you walk it out, and how did you come to be where you are right now?
That is a massive question. That's
Well, we'll
Wow.
kind of
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
it. We'll go through
You
it. You know,
stop-
we'll
you
We'll
stop.
stop
me.
and have a look, and we'll dive into the rabbit hole.
it's like a song. Stop.
Yeah.
What's that song?
I don't
Anyway.
know.
I don't know.
What song it is
Do we know that
in
song?
my
No,
head.
no.
I mean, yeah. Look, and I don't think I've ever actually told my story from beginning to end. Maybe once in South Australia when I did a conference for Youth Alive in SA. But it's probably not something I share. Also, to my family are all still alive and around.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So there's kind of like, how much can you say,
Totally.
but still be respectful?
Totally.
But basically when I was 3, so grew up in Adelaide, I've got a sister who's older than me, and we were not Christians, and I was 3, and my dad and my mum sat us down at the dining table in our little suburb with a house we'd just built, actually.
And you remember this?
Adelaide. Yes, I do.
And you were 3.
Yes, I remember.
wow.
I just remember it's. I don't know when memories start. I've got tiny snippets of the time.
I think when you're that young, you have like little
I
snippets,
have a
right?
memory from when I was a baby of peeing on my grandma. And that I'm not kidding. That is a literal
What?
memory. I can literally see it in my brain if I remember back. And that story is corroborated by my family. It did happen. And I
Really?
was a baby.
Really?
But that's like one of the only memories. Sorry.
That is a
So- yeah.
bizarre memory to have.
Yeah, but it's the one I've got.
Your poor grandmother.
I
I hope
had
that was
one.
accidental.
I think I was a
that's
baby.
crazy.
So, what's your
Sorry, no, but I just remember one now. Just thinking of it. I was in Asia, surprisingly. Yeah, and then,
Expects a reaction.
Are you
my-
Asian or something?
yeah, my
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
anyways, so the shopping centers, right, are huge over there, massive. And long story short, my nanny lost me, and I remember this whole situation. Like
You got lost in a shopping
yeah,
centre.
and I was like vibing, but my mom was like freaking out because I thought I've been child trafficked or something.
Well, you probably missed out just by the skin of your teeth on that one.
Anyway, sorry. Yes, we digress again.
So you were 3, sitting down at the dining room table in a house that you had just built.
Yeah, yes. And then my dad says, I don't love mummy anymore. That's all I remember. I do remember that.
Yeah, wow.
And I don't remember an awful lot after that. I do remember sitting at my dad's feet. I don't know if this was before or after that, and I bit his toe. I know. Let's talk about weird memories. I bit his toe really, really hard. And I remember
Were you
doing
angry
it.
at him?
I must have been. I think my mum and dad were fighting.
Yeah.
I wasn't an angry kid. Like, if you know my nature, I'm actually very quiet by nature. I know you guys see me talking all the time, but I'm actually quiet, pretty shy. I bit his toe, and I remember him having to put it in a Tupperware container of ice cold water.
because
Yeah, but I think it was because they
Go
were
Renee.
arguing, and I wanted them to stop. And so when you're a kid, you can't process what's going on. You just know
Just
something.
hear screaming and
Yeah, totally. So anyway, so next thing I know, my dad's gone. I can't remember much else. My mum does say that we were standing at the window when he left, and my sister, this is really sad, my sister was just crying at the window going, Daddy, please come back, please come back. I know. I'm like, I'm glad I can't remember that. I do remember my dad coming back to visit, and I remember him sitting us on his knee, and I remember thinking, he's got really red eyes. Why has Dad got red eyes? But you can't process it when you're that little.
for sure.
So later I remembered, I'm like, he had red eyes because he was crying. But I don't remember him ever being emotional other than that. And so it was a pretty horrible, I mean, look, there's just so many memories that I've got, but at the same time, our neighbours were Christians. And they went to the Uniting Church up the road. And so they invited my mum and my sister and me to come to church. And so that's how we started getting involved in church. But they were seriously became like our family.
Yeah.
That's where we got saved. I do remember my mum calling out in the middle of a church service and going, please help me. My marriage is falling apart. I need help. Something to those words. And I just remember looking and thinking, is this like, should she be speaking right now? So my mum didn't cope very well. She had a lot of emotional issues. She had a couple of nervous breakdowns at the time. So as a kid, again, you don't understand that. So we had good family around us. We had my uncle that lived around the corner. So that was all good. But there was a lot of tension growing up between my mum and dad. And honestly, there's so many things I could tell you. Like, my mum and dad would punish each other by doing weird things. Like, my dad would come and half paint the front door and then leave the paint pot there. So that, like, that was his way of saying to my mum, well, the door needs painting, so I'll do my half now, you do your half.
No way.
Just stuff like really petty stuff like that. Or when my dad would come and visit us because he moved to Sydney, he would come and visit me. And he would tell my sister and I, like, we'd be playing on the school oval and the fences weren't high, and I would see Dad there and I'd be like, oh, this isn't lunch hour. And so I would go to the fence and be like, hey, Dad. And Dad would be like, I'm going to take you girls to lunch. And so he would. And I remember I would be sick to my gut because I knew that we weren't
school day.
in the middle of the school day.
Was
He
this
just-
allowed?
Well, no one ever knew.
What?
I don't know. Like, now there would be like a school
Yeah.
shut down, right? But I remember in my heart, I knew it was wrong. And I remember him taking us to a Chinese restaurant.
Come on.
Honey chicken.
Oh wow, I love.
I had
it.
honey chicken.
That's
Yes.
up there.
So I remember eating lunch and just thinking to myself, what's the time? What's the time? Like, what if my class go back and I'm not there? And I just felt sick. And I remember eating just to hurry up and eat, but I felt ill. I didn't want to eat. And then he'd drop us back, and it was just as the bell was ringing, and I just legged it back to class. Things like that would happen all the time.
So did you? So okay, this may be a silly question, but did you feel guilty because he was there, or did you feel guilty because you kind of left school and essentially wagged?
That is actually a really good question. Kids from broken home feel guilty about everything. So I felt guilty about all of it. I felt guilty that he wanted to spend time with me there and then, so I felt responsible to go and have lunch with him. I felt guilty that my mum wouldn't know that we were leaving the school, and I had no way to tell her. And I felt guilty that I was leaving the school. Never once did I think, I thought the whole thing was my responsibility, that I had to do the right thing by everyone. So that was my childhood. My dad had another girlfriend when I remember being about 5, in Adelaide that was. And so I remember she had a horse, and we would go and I love horses, but I remember we went out to see the horse with her, and the horse bit her hand. And again, I remember thinking, sucked in. But in my 5-year-old brain, like, I remember thinking, I'm glad the horse bit her. Now, I was not a nasty kid, right? Like, I was not a nasty kid. But the fact that I felt that, I couldn't process big adult feelings in a kid's brain.
For sure.
And so my dad then moved to Sydney. And so he would drive back every couple of weeks, like drive from Sydney back to Adelaide to come and visit.
Drive from Sydney to Adelaide?
Yeah.
What's the distance in that?
It would take, back then we'd have to go through all the towns like Gundawindi and see the dog and the... So I don't know, 20 hours, 20 something hours.
Sounds about right.
That's crazy to me. Driving for 20 hours.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
So he'd come back and see us, and then holidays we would fly there. So I went on a plane from about the age of 6 by myself with my sister. Even that, they're just so many memories. Like I remember flying by myself and being petrified. Like you're in the air on this big plane by yourself.
I was exactly the same.
You're the same?
Maybe about 7 years old or somewhere there, I was flying by myself to and from Brisbane from Townsville.
Right.
Yeah, just by myself on a plane to go and see my dad.
Weird.
Yeah.
It is. Even the thought of it now, right?
Yeah, it's so strange.
And it depends on your personality. My personality was very much, I didn't like change, and I felt the safest with routine. And because my routine was constantly being thrown out the window, and I'm being put in situations where I didn't feel secure and safe, like a 6-year-old by yourself, and I really struggled with that. So I still find airports emotional. The kids think I'm wacky. Yeah. Like I will sit in an airport and observe people. Cameron thinks I'm the weirdest person because I make up stories about everyone because I just watch them, and like I see when people are upset to be going, I notice kids. I see other kids going on planes and I'm like, they're going to visit a parent, I can tell, or
something like that.
Yeah, like I find, because for me it was always a place of goodbyes. Yeah, I was saying goodbye to my dad to go back to see my mum, or I was saying goodbye to my mum to go see my dad, and either way I'm leaving one of them on their own. So then when I was 12, my mum got remarried. It was very quick. It was a guy from our church whose wife had died from a brain tumor, and they had 2 adopted kids. So all of a sudden, all of a sudden, and my mum also, by the way, had a lot of different boyfriends too, like on the way, and I hated that. There was just this constant array of new people that I'm like, yes. Which I think we'll talk about in the next episode, what all this does to your little brain. But even the fact that all these adults would have kids of their own. I remember one of her boyfriend's daughters came to visit and stole my chocolate Easter eggs out the fridge.
I'm still angry from that.
It's not okay, guys.
What?
Yes.
Who does that?
I know.
No, but I can very similar things. Mum's boyfriends had their own kids, and it was always weird. It was never not weird until Mum started dating her now partner. They've been together for like 10 plus years. His kids, Waz's kids are like, they're part of the family. Like it was never weird with them. I guess that just goes to show just how right it was for Mum and Wazza to start seeing each other.
Together,
but I remember boyfriend's mum had, when we were growing up, man, it was just,
it's weird,
so strange, so weird. And I've said in another episode as well, the one I do with my brother, every single boyfriend Mum had, I wanted to punch in the face. Every single one, except for Wazza. But it's all just very interesting.
I feel like you build in expectations. Again, we'll probably go into the next episode where, all right, this person may be my life forever, or they may, tomorrow they might not even be there.
In most cases, it was tomorrow they're not going to be there.
For sure.
They were all dirtbags.
Because I remember one scenario for myself that this one man had a kid, and we were like, we're gonna be brothers forever. Literally the next day,
Oh,
From brothers
no.
to nothing.
like, and we were
Yes.
like, yeah, but
Yeah.
he was white and I was Asian. There's no way we could, you know what I mean?
get along.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, nah.
Sorry, Renee. Yes.
No. I remember, like, I feel like I'm jumping, but if I go chronologically, my mum had this boyfriend that she was going to marry, and I remember he was actually a doctor as well, and like can't stand doctors anyway, so like I was like no, and she sat us down and said to my sister and I, what do you think, girls, if I marry so and so? And we both burst into tears. And so she was like, oh, okay. So she broke up with him, thank the Lord. My dad got remarried when I was 10. Maybe 10, maybe 9, maybe it was 9 or 10. And she wasn't that much older. Well, she was older than me, but she was a lot younger than my dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was weird. And we weren't invited to the wedding.
Ooh, that is.
Yeah. And I still can't work out if that was because Dad says because it would be too hard for us. I think maybe we weren't wanted there. And then they had 2 more girls. And so that was difficult. Like, I love them. They're my half-sisters and I really love them. But they were treated really differently to my sister and I. So there's just so many things that there are inconsistencies that just tell you I don't belong anywhere. I don't fully belong with my mum because she's married to this other guy and I had a stepbrother and a stepsister. And I don't fully belong with my dad because he's now married and they've got a family. And as much as they would try and include us, well, they didn't take my sister and I to Disneyland. You know, we weren't given a big sack full of Christmas presents at Christmas. They were. So it's just this constant rejection, even though I know they didn't mean to. But that's how you read it as a kid.
Totally, I can imagine. Like, and just so many things that are so similar to even my upbringing as well. Like, when you were telling your story, I remember this one time, the first time I saw my mum kiss someone.
Gross.
Broke my heart.
Right.
I was shattered.
For sure.
I still, like, I haven't even really thought about that. Maybe the reasons why but I remember that night, I saw them, like, kiss and hug. And, like, because we were all swimming in the pool as a family. And, like, you know, they had been seeing each other for a while, so it's weird to even say it out loud, but, you know, they were kind of, like, hanging off each other type thing in the pool.
This wasn't Wazza?
No.
Okay, I was like, whoa.
No.
Wazza.
And this guy,
Wazza.
I didn't like this guy. There's just something about him.
Yeah.
Anyways, and yeah, that was a really strange sort of thing, but it's like, where do you fit? Because I don't even have a single full sibling. All of my siblings are half siblings. And so we all, I think we all grew up in mum's house. So it's kind of like that for us is like that stable environment where we all feel like we belonged at some point. But
so you would have no family photo of your biological straight family. Like I don't. I've got no photo of my mum, my dad, my sister and me.
Yeah.
No.
My history is erased.
That's true. I mean, I think that's
You wouldn't.
what we all
You
relate
wouldn't.
to. Yeah, no. I mean, I only from 15 and on because of my stepdad. But if we're talking about our
Biological.
there's no way. I've never even seen him. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yep, and that's it. I've got photos with my dad laying around somewhere, and then I've got photos with my
Yeah,
mum and my
same.
brothers there. And it's always just been mum and the boys in the photos. You know what I mean? So, and that's right. Your history is.
But how true is it though? Like, kids really do have the biggest sense of an adult. Even at work, we say, "Be yourself," otherwise they can smell you.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
They
true.
do. They know what's
they
going
do.
on. And we
Yeah.
knew. Well, you're right. You knew what was
Yeah.
happening since you were little.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you bit your dad's toe because you understood he
Totally.
was
For
leaving.
sure.
You know.
Or like if a
Totally.
person isn't the right one, you're like,
Yeah, you're right. You do know.
Horrible feeling.
It's just it's so interesting, and it's like there's it's multi-layered. There's so many layers, layer upon layer upon layer of things you could go into. So basically, then your whole life up until now, it's never been, I guess, consistent or together. It's been different. There's been families on either side. There's been different relationships. So where kind of has it been that way all into adulthood?
Yeah, so So then when my mum got remarried, then I had my stepdad, my half-sister, my stepsister, my stepbrother. So, and we'll talk about this more in the next episode, the effect that has on every aspect of your life for the rest of your life. But then I think what happened for me that was really, really pivotal was we went from the Uniting Church I grew up in, which I loved. It was the perfect place for my childhood. But then I moved to another church, which used to be called Paradise. And in my teenage years, I found a really, a relationship with God that was really alive for me. And I found people who became my spiritual mum and dad, who were like my actual mum and dad, really. And I just found a place where I could belong that helped with everything that was going on. So in my personal life, my mum and my stepdad were starting to fight a lot. When I was in year 10, my mum took us and we left. And for the whole winter, I remember we lived in the granny flat of a lady around the corner. I hated it. I would say, looking back, I probably was depressed, really. I'm actually glad we didn't have a label for it.
Yeah.
I think if I was given a label when I was a kid, I would have been given the label of having anxiety and probably some depression. But because I was not given the label, I realized it was just attached to a season of my life. But I remember we were freezing cold. This lady wasn't very nice. I had to share a bed with my mum.
Yeah, wow.
You know, it really was just this horrible on repeat of being freezing cold, eating dinner at this lady's table who really didn't like us, so I don't know why she let us be there, and then going to bed, sleeping, getting up, putting on my school uniform and going to school. And then I can't even remember how long we were there for, maybe a few months, and then we moved back. And I'm like, thank the Lord. But the stuff that went on in my household, you wouldn't even believe it if I told you. It is literally crazy. The situation, the fighting between my mum and my step-siblings, it was just crazy.
Wow. Yeah,
there was, my dad would threaten to, he would like hang a noose up in the garage and threaten to take his life. Now, he wasn't going to do it, but he just didn't know what else to do. It was because 2/3 of second marriages don't work out. And so that was my entire teenage years. And then I met Cameron when I was, so I went to uni. I was very determined to make a life for myself that I wanted, that didn't look like what I'd grown up in. And so I went to uni, I studied teaching, and I just went straight into full-time work, loved it. And then met Cameron, and yeah, that was the beginning of the best years of my life.
How old were you when you met Cameron?
I was 21, just turning 22. I was probably 22 actually.
And you finished uni at that point?
Yeah, I'd been when I married Cameron, I'd been working full-time as a teacher. I finished uni when I was 19.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Straight into
Very
it.
young.
Straight into a full-time job when I just turned 20. So yeah, I'd been full-time teaching for 2 years when I met Cameron.
And what do you think in terms of your, being brought up in that sort of environment where I guess the normal family dynamic was completely destroyed, for lack of a better word? We've all experienced that. What was probably a couple of the biggest ways that it affected you growing up?
I've got like literally a list.
Yeah, maybe just one or two, and we can touch on more.
Yeah, we'll touch on it on the next one. Like how it affected me in my adult years, like my going into it. I would say the biggest thing would be rejection. The rejection that I'd felt constantly really impacted the way that I then carried out my relationships. So that would be the biggest one, where I found myself having dysfunctional patterns. That would be the number one. And the second one would be that fear that I had of how am I ever going to make a relationship work when I've never seen one myself. I've seen nothing but like just crazy dysfunction. And so those two things affected me the most.
I find that so funny because that's like a lot of, that's yours, that's mine. A lot of us with a single parent household really have the similar we call it pain-based behaviors at work, but
What do you call it?
pain-based behaviors.
Pain-based behaviors. I like that.
So that I'm sorry, I'm so shocked how like relatable
Well,
everything
that's it.
is,
and
right?
It's kind of is cut and dry across the board.
Yeah.
Like, it is really a matter of if A happens, then B is sure to follow.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. And I think a lot of the times in the generation that we live in, we all want to make excuses, and we all want to have, oh, I am this way because of, this is just who I am. I'm a Sagittarius or whatever. But it's like, no, A happened, and so B must follow. Like, I think it's kind of like that.
I
to a
think we've
degree.
got shared experience, even though our stories might look slightly different, right? Anyone from a broken home, that's why you're saying it's so relatable. We've all got shared, shared the experiences of how we felt and the impact it had is the same. So when I went and shared about my story at the South Australian Youth Alive conference, and then I did an altar call, I mean, the kids came flooding to the front.
Yeah,
They're
for
like,
sure.
no one's ever talked about this. It's like you understand my story. It's like you've grown up with me. And I'm like, but I did.
Yeah.
Because the impact is the
Yeah.
same for all of us, even if the details look a little
Totally.
bit different.
And it's funny when it comes to rejection and that sort of thing as well, like, and that's probably one of the things that I have to battle through the most is the need for somebody to, I guess, encourage me, or because of that sense of rejection, I'm so scared and don't like the feeling of being rejected that sometimes I find myself doing things and acting certain ways to get a praise of encouragement or something like that. Like I find within my own family and things like that, and when people do encourage me, like a Cam or Renee, for instance, when I do get encouraged, man, it's like amazing. It feels great. Like, you do have to be careful with those types of those things, but that comes from not having a dad.
Do you think that also? I'm not sure about you guys, but we are all creatives. But for me, I think it also adds, because I am a creative, that I have very critical thinking of myself. Does that make sense? Like very like if I do something wrong, I'm gonna put myself down a lot.
Yeah.
Like does that? I feel like that's an outsource of what you were just saying.
Yeah, no, I definitely experienced that too. But also then through journeying through life a little bit too, you do learn to, I guess, silence those voices.
It's not accepting and be like, oh, yeah.
But you know why we're hard on ourselves? Because out of rejection comes a sense of perfectionism, so that if I'm perfect, no one else can reject me. If I don't give you a reason to, then you can't reject me. So it's a form of self-protection.
Wow.
And it comes out in different ways. So it sounds like yours, I'm very much like that. Perfectionism. Yours might be a little bit different. Rejection plays out in different ways in different people, but it's still a root of
I
rejection.
think for me, a lot of how it played out for me was I became a bit of a serial liar.
Wow.
So I would.
Good to know.
No, this was when I was a kid.
Okay. Can we believe anything he says from now on?
So when I was a kid, I used to say things that weren't true because I knew that's what my mum or people around me wanted to hear. And if they heard that, then they would say nice things. So I didn't necessarily feel the need to perform perfectionism, but I definitely learnt how to
Fiend it.
to talk it.
Right.
Yeah, wow.
Right.
But yeah, it's all kind of similar.
That's crazy.
Flows
It
together.
is. It all the sources from the one thing,
But
right?
then even that, then I look at stories of Jesus in the Bible, and he cursed the fig tree, and the reason he cursed the fig tree in the Bible and the fig tree died was because the fig tree was showing signs of having fruit but didn't have fruit. The tree had bare leaves and
blossoms but no fruit.
and had no fruit, and so Jesus was essentially saying, this is the type of life that I detest. But that's the kind of life that I was living, was that I knew how to show signs of fruit, but there was no fruit.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest battle for me in fatherlessness, I think, has been learning to bear real fruit, because I've never seen real fruit been bared in the first place.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just
right.
me. That went a little bit deep, but
Yeah,
Deep,
I was about to
guys.
cry.
yeah.
But
No, that's amazing, Renee, and to see where you are now. What would you, just in, I guess, bringing this episode to a close, and we've kind of said God is a big reason. I think it's going to be similar. But if we could be a little bit more specific, what do you think the one thing has been that helped you the most in navigating this whole idea and concept of fatherlessness?
I would have to say, I mean, obviously,
It can be God.
If we're gonna, of course, God. But what God brought into my life, there's a scripture that says that that He puts the solitary in homes, and He's close to the brokenhearted. He puts the solitary in homes and gives them a family. The church for me became my family, and so having people in my life who really genuinely loved me, that is what changed the whole trajectory of my life. The church being the church. So, when I talked about my spiritual mum and dad before, I was a leader in the youth ministry and they were my youth pastors. But the amount of times that they would just go, hey, on a Sunday, what are you doing for lunch today? Come home with us. And I remember oftentimes just sitting in the back seat of their car, driving to their house, and just in my brain thinking, I feel like I'm with my mum and dad. And I would observe their marriage and what they didn't have kids at the time. I would observe them like I was a hungry, starving person. And I just watched everything that they did. I would watch them talk in the car. I would watch them at home while they were cooking lunch. And I'd have lunch or dinner with them. That was so healing for me. They were my people. And I just,
so
I never went to counselling, by the way. I never went and saw a my mum tried. When I was about 10, my mum tried to make me have an appointment with a psychologist. I hated it. Hated it. This guy in his 40s. And I was like, you're creepy to me. Why am I going to tell you how I feel? I don't even know how I feel.
Yeah, totally.
And so for me, the one big thing was obviously God, but what God brought into my life and that feeling of belonging and people that loved me. And I would just talk with them. I would just chat, and just watching them and watching what could be gave me so much hope.
That's amazing.
That's why often, even at church now, Cameron would often grab my hand and just for a second, or, worship together or whatever. And I'm so aware, I know I've had people in the past that are like, oh, if you're dating someone and you're in the youth group, you shouldn't show any affection for each other in the youth group. I'm like, rubbish. I mean, do it in a healthy way. Don't be weird.
Yeah, don't
but
be
like,
weird. Yeah.
Don't be sitting on each
good.
other's lap in the middle of the youth service.
That's
Yeah,
what we
don't
did
do
one
that.
time. No.
But people like me were watching people like Cameron and I now.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That gave me so much hope for the future.
Healthy love touches.
I like
Yeah.
that.
And
that's good.
that gave me a place to help process as well. And just being open and knowing I had to deal with stuff was really key. But I had a healthy environment to do that. And then just often I'd be like, God, I have no idea how to heal from all this, but you know. So here's my heart. Help me. That was often my prayer. Just, Lord, help me. I don't want to repeat this in my future. Help.
Yeah, wow.
And then just quickly, when you pray that prayer to God and you say, God, help me, what's next? How do you position yourself to be helped by God?
The Bible, there's this amazing parable, I was going to say parable about the talents that were given and what we do with it. I knew that as much as I say, God, help me, that then I've got a personal responsibility to be open to that. So I position myself by putting myself around good people and putting myself in the house of God. And I always was like, what's my personal responsibility here? And God was just always so good to me. I don't know, I look back and He gave me so many opportunities to have conversations, with my youth pastors, for example, where I didn't shy away from them. I was very, very willing to deal with my stuff. So I would actively seek out, particularly my youth pastor's wife. I would actively seek her out and I'd be like, hey, Sam, I really am struggling in this area right now. Can I just chat with you? And I would just go and I remember rocking up on her doorstep numerous times. So I sought it out. I think that's key.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really good. Well, this has been an amazing episode, hearing your story. We've got to bring it to a close, but we are going to be talking into another episode, and we're going to go into a little bit of the finer details, which is going to be amazing. But Renee, can you just let everybody know where they can find you, what the best way is to be able to follow everything that you're doing, and then we'll wrap this up.
Sure. Do I look into the camera?
No, you can do whatever
So
you want.
creepy. So you can find me on Girl Next Door podcast on iTunes and Spotify, and then on my Instagram, girlnextdoor.podcast, where people come along and chat with me all the time.
Yep.
So yeah.
Fantastic.
Best place.
And you can find us on YouTube and Spotify
Yes.
and Instagram.
And literally everything.
And literally
YouTube.
Well,
please
that's not everything.
support
We're
us.
still missing
Guys,
a couple things.
please ask us questions in our Instagram, in our comments. We'll try our best to answer it.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Love you all.
Thanks,
We'll see you in the next
guys.
episode.
See you soon.
Adios, amigos.